Hey there, students. Thank you for being part of this presentation. My name is Luis Silva, and today we're looking at world history, the Cold War, 1945 all the way to 1991, and this is part 5 of the Cold War. What will we learn today? Today we're going to look at who won the Cold War and some of the leaders that made the Cold War come to an end. The United States and the Soviet Union engaged in Cold War from 1945 all the way to 1991. As you can see from the map here, these are the areas that were influenced by the Cold War. In the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, the United States fought to contain communism throughout the world. In the 1970s, the United States used a policy known as détente, but it ended as the USSR invaded Afghanistan. In the 1980s, two new leaders changed the direction of the Cold War: United States President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. Reagan took a strong stance against communism in the Soviet Union. Reagan's goal was to win the Cold War and restore America's position as a dominant superpower. Reagan referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire, which made many Soviets very angry. He spent $2 trillion to increase the size of the American military. Mr. Reagan was making sure that the United States dominated the world. He also sent over 500 intercontinental ballistic missiles to Western Europe to protect NATO allies. Reagan's most ambitious program was the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, called Star Wars by some, to protect the United States from Soviet nuclear attacks. Here we have an image that shows you how this program was supposed to work. You're more than welcome to pause the video so that you can analyze the entire program. Here we have more images that shows us how ambitious this program was around this time. On the other hand, Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in 1982 at a time when the USSR was facing serious problems. Soviet socialism did not offer incentives for hard work. By the 1980s, the USSR had low industrial and agricultural production. The USSR also spent 50% of its budget on the military, was fighting an expensive war in Afghanistan, and also maintained troops and tanks in Eastern Europe. This was very expensive for the Soviet Union to maintain. Soviet leaders faced the impossible task of competing with the SDI and taking the arms race into space. The Soviet government restricted freedom of speech and did not allow democratic elections, so no alternative opinions were offered. This was something also that many people in the Soviet Union completely disliked, as they were aiming for at least some freedoms. Mikhail Gorbachev began 3 major reforms to save the communist system in the Soviet Union. Gorbachev introduced glasnost, or openness, to encourage freedom of speech and to allow expression of new ideas. He also introduced perestroika, which relaxed some government controls over farms and factories to make production more efficient, and it allowed citizens to open small businesses. He also introduced democratization, which allowed citizens to vote for communist politicians, but communists only. This was a problem because people did not have other options. You either selected A, communism, or B, communism. Let's move on. In addition to his economic reforms, Gorbachev changed Soviet foreign policy. Reagan's SDI plan forced Gorbachev to admit that the USSR could not keep up with the arms race. So he decided to withdraw Soviet tanks divisions from the communist nations in Eastern Europe. a wise decision because the Soviet Union had no money to continue all of the military programs around the world. In 1989, Gorbachev ended the 9-year war in Afghanistan. On the other hand, Reagan was able to work with Gorbachev to reduce Cold War tensions. As you can see from the image to your right, there's Mikhail Gorbachev and US President Ronald Reagan. Here we have another image of both world leaders discussing how they can better the world without going to war. President Reagan was able to work with Gorbachev to reduce Cold War tensions, and in 1987, Reagan and Gorbachev agreed to end all medium-range intercontinental ballistic missiles. Rather than saving the communist system in the USSR and Eastern Europe, Gorbachev reforms helped bring an end to communism. In 1989, a surge of democratic revolution swept throughout the Eastern European communist satellites. This was very important as the political landscape was changing in those countries that were behind the Iron Curtain. Eastern European nations broke from Soviet control and were able to create democracies. Gorbachev did not use the Soviet military to stop these revolutions. This was another very important event because Mikhail Gorbachev could have used the military to prevent this, but instead he decided that those nations could decide by themselves what they wanted. Here we have an image of the Berlin Wall, very important historic picture that shows the separation between communism and democratic ideals. Ethnic nationalism and a desire for democracy led to the breakup of the Soviet Union from 1990 to 1991. You're more than welcome to pause this video so you can review all the information that's been given to you that explain how these nations were able to slowly but surely become democratic. In 1990, the Soviet states of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania declared independence from the Soviet Union. Historic moment for the world and the fall of communism. In 1991, the Soviet Union broke apart and 15 new nations were formed. You're more than welcome to analyze the information given to you on this map. The breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of the Cold War. When the Cold War ended, the United States was left as the only superpower in the world. We have come to the end of this presentation. Please make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next presentation.